Yeah, well, we'll call the meeting back to order. We have with us our legislative council draft person, Michael Grady. And Michael, I know we asked you in to talk about the amendment to 301. Um, but before we get started on that, I received some emails that you sent to Jenny, and then she sent you back one, and you folks did have an opportunity, I guess, to talk, and wondered how that was all.
So, this is Michael Gray with Legislative Council. After your meeting with, or you heard from, the Agency of Agriculture, Toxicology, and another Agency of Agriculture staff last week about section 6 and 7 in S-197. You asked me to talk to Senator Alliance about the possibility of removing those two sections from S-197. And I told her that in your discussions with the agency, you learned that, that the current version of section 7 in S-197 is separate. First, it bans any pesticide being sold, used, or distributed in the state if it contains one of 6 specific PFAS substances. The agency and their toxicologists testified to you that no pesticide currently contains any of those PFAS substances. So that prohibition would have no effect. The second thing that section 7 of S-197 does is it prohibits the sale of a pesticide that's been adulterated at 20 parts per trillion, which you learned from the agency is basically 0. And that if it has adulterated, if it was stored in a container that had PFAS in it, fluorinated container, you learned from the agency that EPA is already requiring those containers to no longer have fluorinated compounds in it. There was an order that was issued to one of the larger, not largest manufacturer of containers for pesticides to remove fluorinated compounds from their containers. And so that issue seems to not be an issue either, with the containers being used and distributed, not prohibited from having fluorinated compounds by EPA. And then the other provision of S-197, section 7 was the requirement that pesticide manufacturers, distributors, when they're registering their pesticide in the state, that they provide the formula to the Agency of Agriculture so the agency can determine whether or not a PFAS is in the pesticide. Well, the agency already has authority to request the formula for any manufacturer, distributors registering a pesticide. And the agency made the point that requiring that for every pesticide is excessive and will honestly just lead to busy work. That will probably just require a staff person to just do that. So that's really where you stand, I believe, with S-197 and where the agency stands. So the 6 PFAS listed are not in pesticides. Fluorinated containers are being phased out or have been phased out. So there should be no residual adulteration. And the submission of a formula is something the agency can already require, but requiring it for every pesticide is really an administrative burden on the agency that they have little.
And if they, I think you said if they find a pesticide that has been adulterated, they can ban it.
Yes, pesticides They can have some residual amounts of things in it, but if they exceed those residual amounts, then it's considered adulterated. And it should not be used, it should not be sold, it should be removed from the market. So adulteration is already a standard that applies. And it would already apply if PFAS was contaminating a pesticide that EPA and or the Agency of Agriculture could remove it from compost.
Well, I think we're right on.
Yeah, I think,
what
well, the
we
question
recommend.
last week was, what would these two sections do? And it doesn't sound like they would do anything.
Right. I think what has happened is Maine enacted their bill.
Yep.
And it has led to changes. And then EPA enacted their roadmap. Not everyone's excited about EPA's roadmap, but it has led to changes too. And so you're at the point where you're a few years away from Maine, 1 or 2 years away from the roadmap. And when this language was drafted, which was basically 2 years ago, things have changed.
Right. Is that what Maine's passed a couple years ago?
It's 4 years ago now.
Yeah, 301,
Okay.
and I mean, this bill probably, it was in even the last section,
Mhm.
Senate bill,
Very similar, yeah.
you know, so. Yeah, things have changed, right?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So again, just for the record, for people that might be watching right now, I feel even more comfortable with the position that we took, I think it was Friday, maybe Thursday, I think it was Friday, that we just asked for sections 6 and 7 to be removed from the bill because it doesn't change anything significantly in my view, and I'm fine with staying where we were. And people want to email me about it, that's fine, but I don't feel, and the phrase that was used in a couple of the emails was gutting the bill. I don't think what we did Friday gutted the bill in any respect.
And what's your email address? So just so people know.
I think they could look at it. So,
Cell phone?
Isn't there a lot more in that bill than the two sections?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
I mean, we aren't getting
Right.
anything, really.
Right, and I don't even know the status of the other sections of what
No,
the
we don't
healthcare
either.
committee is going to do.
We know that there's no need of chasing a dead dog. If this isn't gonna do
Yeah.
anything,
Right.
and you know, we've got some more serious issues that we could be working in. So anyways,
And I don't-
are you all happy, Irene?
Almost. I'm looking back at my notes, if I may, and, we had testimony from Dr. Kyla Bennett talking about how, there was a court case in which it was expected the EPA ban would be overturned and therefore states were acting, such as Connecticut, putting their own bans on these PFAS and pesticides. And so I want us to forget that. In her opinion, it would be up to the states to
But
regulate.
if this Vermont already has an adulteration standard, so if it's not a formula that's been approved by US EPA, then it shouldn't be in pesticide to begin with. It is. It's not gonna be an active ingredient because it's not pesticide. Right. In nature, it's gonna be an inert or active ingredient. I just think that, that will probably only be in specialized products, like a dog collar. But as I actually tried to figure out if any of those 6 substances were in dog collars. And I could not find any of those 6 substances.
Well, I was concerned because I didn't want Benny running around getting PFAS, and come to find out, wouldn't affect Benny, it would get me from watching it.
Right, type from, do.
And then you guys spoke up and said, well, it wouldn't be bad if maybe if you did get contaminated. Right?
I'll have to look back on that. day. I don't think that's it.
No, you were more polite.
But I will say that people will likely email you and say, well, there are a lot more PFAS than the 6 that are listed.
Sure.
And that's true, but that's not what,
That's not what's in the bill.
that's not what's in 197.
Okay,
Yeah. So,
great.
well, what, you
Have
know.
you talked to the chair by any chance? Have you talked to Senator Lyons?
Well,
I was just
Sounds
curious.
like Michael did.
contacted this morning,
Okay,
that didn't work. Not, Michael, talked with her yesterday, I think.
Yep.
Will probably get invited to the committee to discuss our, situation and find, I mean, it isn't like, I mean, we've heard a lot of the testimony on section 6 and 7. I bet hours of it, when you count everybody, you look back to Irene's records, she could tell you. But, I mean, I'm surprised that we ended up where we did, because I think that was something that,
yeah, I am too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that is actually something Senator Lyons pointed out. She said she had been looking at a draft on your committee website, and that's not exactly what I had explained to her your position. She said that's not what she was reading. And it's like, well, that's because their first intuition was to go with it. But then they heard further testimony and realized it wasn't necessary.
No, so anyways, 301, is it?
Yep.
Do you have copies of
It's
the?
on you.
Thank you. So did we add something at the end of that?
Yeah, you put the rodenticide language in this bill.
Is that at the end or
It's at the end.
the rest of it?
There are some tweaks between the beginning and
Oh,
the sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So just the changes?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So on page 3, line 9, Steve indicated to me that you wanted the license for the public warehouses to be moved from April 1st to January 1st date. I had not heard that, so I made that change. Page 5, lines 5 and 6, the $25 per year license fee for people who are exclusively transporting their own bulk milk. It dropped out at one point, and I don't really know how. But it's back in there.
Well, we felt there's gonna be a minimum charge, but it was like,
it's gonna be $7.50.
yeah, yeah, so that'll, yeah, that takes care of that issue. Everybody agreeable with that?
Yeah.
Then on page 9, we just needed to redesignate some numbers because you struck red deer. And then we didn't renumber the subdivisions properly on page 9 and page 10. And then on page 12, this was language that I was not aware of. This is mosquito survey language. It said make the results of the Secretary's surveys, investigations, and studies available to the Department of Health, relevant select board members or mayors, and shall do so also upon request, and shall make those results available to any organization or individuals interested in mosquito or other biting arthropod surveillance work. Apparently Steve said that they requested this and you approved it, but
Yeah, as I recall, it was the whole thing, I don't know if they requested it or if we just raised it, sorry to interrupt, Mr. Chair, I think it was, if this might be information that cities and towns would wanna have.
Yeah.
And,
But we didn't feel it was a good thing to force them to do this all the time.
Right. Was this the notification?
Yeah.
Why, or would you remind me?
Well, we've changed it on page 11,
Okay,
line 20, shall to may, because the feeling was that they wouldn't necessarily be surveying all of the mosquito habitat year after year after year after year. They could if they wanted to,
right.
but there are enough areas that it would literally take somebody all year to keep doing that. So
Right.
we made it permissive. And then there was
But
the,
yeah, I think the only thing was on the page 12 where they will, upon request, make the
Right.
results available. That's a shop.
yeah,
So,
Right.
so if they requested.
Yeah.
if the information
Right.
requested, they.
Yeah.
do,
That's not, yeah.
yeah.
Alright, so should I move on?
Yep.
So page 15, section 15, this is where the second generation anticoagulant rodenticide language is being added. There's first that definition of what a second gen anticoagulant rodenticide is, which was the same as what was in S272. And then instead of a prohibition, there's the requirement that the secretary shall register as a restricted use pesticide any second gen anticoagulant rodenticide that is distributed, sold into, or offered for sale within the state, or delivered for transportation or transported intrastate commerce between points within the state or outside the state. So that means that I can't remember how many that have been registered as Class B. Will now be Class A, and you will need to have a restricted use certification in order to both sell and apply those rodenticides.
Yep, and we had Steve back in
Right.
on this.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, they're all agreeable the way we're. That's good.
On page 17, you're moving into the requested changes to the ag credit program from VEDA.
Right.
The first is in the creation of the program instead of just provide alternative sources of sound and constructive credit. That they will also, in the alternative, have the granting of the loan shall serve as a substantial inducement for the establishment or expansion of an eligible project in the state.
And where, it must be further in the logging.
Yeah.
Well, so forestry operations, page 17, lines 16 and 17. That is what it's going to be available for innovative techniques for farming and forestry operation. And
that was enough for people.
And it's like, so is farming back in or is farming help? Because I see a line through farming.
so it's just that I moved
that's right after.
the term farming to, instead of it saying innovative farming, forestry operations techniques, it's innovative in the techniques for farming and forestry.
Cleaned it up.
And I mean, I could add a definition of forestry operation to this, which is effectively 10 VSA 2602, which is where it's defined. It would not be hard to do.
And where would you put that, Mike?
I'd probably put it in. Probably it's going to be subdivision 16 on page 19.
So it would spell out forestry operations.
Yeah, like, and forestry operation is pretty much everything that you can. Well,
Yeah.
it's a pretty comprehensive term.
It might be good to have that in here,
I'm not against it. I think subset 9,
does it?
well, comes close.
It's really close.
Oh, what page is?
19, forest products business mean means an enterprise that is engaged in managing, harvesting, trucking, processing, manufacturing, drafting, or distributing forest products.
With that, I think that is pretty,
Comprehensive.
do you think we'd have to do something different?
Or maybe you then wanna change on page 17, line 16 and 17, instead of the same forestry operation there today. Forest products business.
There you go.
Oh, okay, that's the other way to go. Sure.
Then it's the same right through. Yeah.
Oh, they must have settled.
You gotta go around that way. I don't want that on my. I see you slopping.
I'm not very good at what I do sometimes.
Yeah, so that would fix that. And
And that is really, there's language on page 20.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring this to your attention. I didn't talk to you about this language, so I just wanted you to know about it. It's requested by Vita. I don't know if they talked to you about it.
Yes, they did.
So that's okay to have that shall be intended to expand the agricultural economy of the state.
Yeah, and I had a question on line 4, the 20% threshold. And the explanation offered was that most of the financial institutions in the country use that same 20% to determine. So it seemed like it's going.
Okay, so I just wanted to double check with that on that. Yeah.
now, do we need, is the forestry stuff in there as well?
This is for every.
It says other business entities.
You could probably put
We should.
forest products business in here. So it's already on page 20, line 17.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That would cover that operations. In the white print.
So
They asked for million and aid.
they will be looking for equipment. Right,
So up on the line, I'll wait until you're done.
I think you could add in a couple of places. Like page 20, line 3, it says a farmer or forest products business.
Yep.
Or a limited or other business entity. One or more farmers. I don't know if Vito wants that to just be. Would a forest products business be there? I don't
Well,
know.
that's what I'm wondering, you know, that shall be intended to expand the agricultural and forestry economy,
Mhm.
that work in there so that there isn't any confusion.
Why don't I amend this language to say, page 20, line 3, a farmer or forest products business. And then on page 20, line 5, vested in one or more farmers, forest product business, or nonprofit corporation shall apply for farm ownership or operating a road that shall be intended to expand the agricultural or forest economy of the state. And then provided that on page 20, line 14. Experience in an agricultural facility farm operation for forest products business. And then have forest products business on page 2117 already.
Yeah.
Then I'll send that over to Cassie to see if that works for her.
It's more important that it works for us.
Right.
Right.
I like it.
No, Irene. That's
Thank you.
one,
Michael, do we renumber things starting on line 10 because we've repealed number 1? I just don't know how this works.
You can do that, you can do that.
So can number two become one, et cetera, not the nine, ten?
Sure.
Okay, so since you're making some changes. Thank you.
So my other question is, since we're changing the fee for the transport of the milk, will this likely go to finance?
And go to finance and it's gonna go to appropriation. Cause you're changing Vita and how they work. But
Just thinking of it.
Okay.
So they,
Even though we're lessening the fee,
they're gonna.
we are changing it.
yeah, there's,
Voted,
Okay, go ahead. No, sorry, go ahead.
We're gonna get crowded like heck in,
Oh, I know.
so we ought to probably try to get this out and gone this week, so we get prepared.
Yeah.
Uh,
As long as we do it by Friday.
well,
Michael scheduled the engineers.
And there are 2 weeks.
That's true, because the money committee's having.
They have the extra, so they get the 2 weeks. Yeah.
so, and you're coming back Thursday.
Yeah.
So we'll maybe, will you have time to do those things?
yes, I'll go do them right now.
So we'll plan to, and you should hear back from Rita, so, if everything looks good, but those even little changes, so we're planning to review that one last time.
Yep. On Thursday.
Get it voted out of here, so, it gives the tax committee and the spokes committee ample time to, because it isn't big dollars.
No, but it's, it's a rule.
Yeah, it's a rule. Gotta go by the rule.
I find Ann's very fast with it.
How come we always go by the rule? But you leave this building and get out of here, nobody seems to go by the rules. Or certain people certainly don't, and, very little repercussion. But anyways, thank you.
You are.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Later.